Geneva was in ruins. Idiots, I thought, as I stood outside the crater created by the catastrophe that had been the largest particle accelerator in the world. They messed up. Somebody messed up. I don't know if the wrong two particles were slammed together at the right speed. I don't know if the sheer monstrous magnitude of the machine had caused the experiment to falter. Hell, maybe this was exactly what they were trying to do. Unfortunately, none of them lived long enough to see it happen. The initial blast had covered a diameter of 5 miles, the size of the former underground facility, and then destroyed another 45 miles in all directions. Nothing in the crater survived. Hell, even the dirt had been vaporized. Although, now within the original 5 miles of the machine glowed a pulsing, brilliant white. I could hear the astro and quantum physicists arguing with NASA's chief science officers. They were all there. The light wasn't behaving like a black hole, as there was no distortion of time or space. Would they know? I wondered if it was now the reality we were living. Also, no ionizing radiation, which only meant they could stand here arguing longer. Furthermore, it wasn't pulling anything into it, so there was no gravitational pull whatsoever. Finally, it wasn't letting anything out of it, as all the fancy equipment that had been brought in to study the thing were reading 0. Nothing. Nothing at all. It simply existed. But where did it go? I was the lucky fuck they had called in to pilot that suicide mission of discovery. My orders were to take my ship into the light and see where it went. They'd assured me that they could bring me back. I don't know how they knew they could bring me back if they didn't even know what I was flying into. I quickly learned, however, that there are times in our lives when we don't get the opportunity to argue. Thank you, assholes. I was the only qualified pilot to fly the only ship capable of this mission. Or so they believed. Well, or so they told me. This all takes me back to my initial questions when I first started flying the E-282, as nothing I'd flown in my career had prepared me for this craft. I was told, after I questioned why the controls had needed to be modified for humans when an engineer had let that slip, everything except the AI was above my pay grade. I'd asked how I was going to fly it then. They told me that was classified too. I took it to mean they didn't know either and were hoping I'd just figure it out. Go fuck yourself, assholes. I thought to myself as I stood there and nodded. The computer aboard was AI and functioned as navigation, system controls, sometimes co-pilot, and oftentimes conversation even if it was stiff and computerized. It was the AI that alerted me to the food delivery. Turning to see, I felt the uneasiness grow when I watched them loading crate after crate of dehydrated goods and water regenerators on board. So I asked and was told that I was only going to be gone for a few minutes. I should just appreciate forethought and preparedness. I took this to mean they had no fucking idea where the hell I was going, and that I'd be lucky to survive. And that's a fuck me. So again, thanks, assholes. Once on board the ship, I did something I hadn't done in years. I prayed. I didn't know who I was praying to anymore. I didn't know what I believed anymore, or if I believed. But I knew I wanted to survive the next few minutes. I didn't know what to expect as the ship breached the light surface. The vast brightness was endless, as pain I never wanted to remember tore through me. Then, for only an instant, I felt as if I had ceased to be before the mind-cracking pain was back. And I passed out. When I awoke, the overwhelming brightness was gone, and I released from my seat, standing in awe of what lay before me. The large viewing panel showed a sky I'd only imagined in a dream, where our night sky was dotted with lights and gases. There was just more, and I watched the twinkling move for everything glowed in the darkness. Above me showed a ceiling of lights, flickering and bursting, swirling amongst colors I wanted to describe but lacked the words. As I tried to understand the colors and the patterns I was living, I realized that the energy from one was pulled down in flickers like strings, spilling the energy into new lights and swirling colors, each having strings that had strings, and so on as I gazed out and down. And when I looked up at the swirling above my ship, I realized that I was attached on yet above. The patterns closest to me spread out in ripples, all from the central spiral above, but they themselves were separate entities before giving life to entities below. An infinity of controlled time and space simply robbed me of speech. I finally whispered to myself, "Toto, I don't believe we're in Kansas anymore." I never expected a voice to answer, as there was no one on board but myself and the AI. Yet I heard it, talking, as if coming from the AI system. I knew the AI, and this was other. This voice was soft and soothing, yet held a quiet, unquestionable strength that echoed within the feminine. "Hello?" I called out. "Who are you?" I only waited a moment, but it felt longer, as if the very space about me was holding its breath until the voice finally said,
"I simply am."
Pondering that response, I curiously asked, "What are you?" Another wait before,
"I simply am, as I am the beginning of everything, and yet the end to nothing, for nothing truly ever dies. And you have found the beginning, as before us is order and movement, behind the great maw of chaos."
Looking around me once again, I needed to know, "Where are you?" And this time the answer was effortlessly given.
I am. I am everywhere and nowhere.
Nodding as if I was not more perplexed, I turned back to the viewing panel and let the colored lights outside light upon my face. I knew this was a chance that this was all just a hallucination, or that I still hadn't awoken, or morbid still that I was dead. I finally grinned while shaking my head, looking up at the closest speaker. I nodded. "Hello, Am."
Hello, Toto.
The voice replies with a happy lilt to it, and I snort, realizing she had no reference for my statement earlier, so it probably wasn't in my head. Still grinning, I let go. I don't know how long I stood there staring, trying to absorb the totality of what was before me. But I soon checked my watch, and it was spinning faster than I could fathom. It was Am who spoke first.
This is time on a grand scale, where eons come and go before your heart can beat a second time. You, I am afraid, are lifetimes beyond lifetimes from home in both time and space. It would take more than years for a signal to find you here.
Well, I'll just go back through the way I came. I nodded more to myself to stem the panic that was building.
You assume much, Toto.
She sighs like a mother trying to comprehend a child's view.
There is no way back. There is no behind you. Staring into the abyss.
She stops as if she fears the answer. "Show me," I tell her, and quickly stride to the controls when she stops me.
Those will do you no good out here.
I feel the ship starting to turn and see the twinkling colors diminish until I'm staring at nothing. But unlike nothing that you can comprehend, it was just dark. Although not the kind of dark that I wanted to experience again. I didn't know endless nothing could feel stagnant and putrid, but it did. The brightness behind me had no effect on this nothingness. and yet this nothing had weight, as if something or somethings were hungrily staring back. Things that made this impossible hell home. Am knew. She understood because she saw it too. Felt it. I didn't know what Am was, but I never wanted to meet something that scared her. What are you truly, Am? I asked. The voice was full of inspiration and promise when she tells me.
I am the daughter and gatekeeper to the unraveling chaos that was before it all. And when all possibilities are extinguished and the movement stops, when I cease to be, I will become the devourer of reality. I am the impossible, made possible. I am time.
I felt nothing but relief when my vessel turned back to the lights. Home was somewhere out there. I just needed to find it. I felt better knowing that I had time on my side.